Dust swirled across the training field in the early morning light. Nice bruises, Princess. Fort Harper giving out spa days now. Private Ian Morgan's voice sliced through the haze, sharp but sloppy, like an unsharpened blade. He stepped back into formation with a smirk, his words loud enough for the whole squad to hear. That was the point. Sergeant Emma Carter stood alone in the open field, her tank top soaked with sweat, dirt clinging to her skin like a second uniform. Bruises marked her arms and collarbone, not the kind from one bad day but the kind that built up over time, deep and stubborn. Her knuckles were scraped raw, her stride just a touch uneven, but her stance was unyielding. Behind her, Bravo squad shifted. Some chuckled quietly, others watched with mild curiosity. She was the new face, the only woman assigned to the squad in 2 years. No formal introduction, no backstory. All they knew was she'd been transferred in on a special directive, whatever that meant. Whispers had circulated the barracks the night before. Some said she was recovering from an injury. Others figured she was just a desk officer trying to prove she could run with the grunts. Emma didn't respond. No words, no flinch, not even a flicker in her eyes. That bothered Morgan more than he'd admit. "How many push-ups to snap a wrist, Sarge?" he pressed, flashing a lazy grin. "Or did you trip over your own ego again?" The squad snickered, the kind of laughter that tests boundaries. They didn't know her. And when people don't know, they get bold. What they didn't grasp, what they hadn't even considered, was that Emma hadn't been ordered back. She'd chosen to return, not for redemption, but to settle a debt only she understood. From a low rise just beyond the field, General James Hartley watched, hands clasped behind his back, his expression unreadable. He'd known from the moment she stepped out of the Humvee that morning, this wouldn't be easy. Emma Carter didn't seek attention. Yet, wherever she went, her history followed. He held back though. Not yet. She stood in the heat, silent, unmoving, while the bruises along her neck, still raw, half-healed, caught the sunlight. She didn't defend herself or look away. Emma knew something the others didn't. Respect earned in silence outlasts fleeting applause. She looked like someone who'd walked through hell, and some were already betting she hadn't fully returned. A faint scar under her left eye glimmered in the morning sun, thin and jagged, almost surgical. Her shoulders were squared, but her stillness wasn't pride, it was something deeper, weathered. Then the general's voice broke through, low, steady, dangerous. It carried across the field like a warning wrapped in stone. "Call sign Shield 19. Everything stopped. The chuckles, the sideways glances, the smirks, they ceased. Even the breeze seemed to hold its breath. Morgan blinked, half confused, half annoyed. "Shield what?" General Hartley stepped down from the rise, his boots meeting the dirt with a slow, deliberate rhythm. His arms no longer behind his back, they hung at his sides, fists lightly clenched. "You just mouthed off to Shield 19, son?" The field didn't just go quiet. It tightened, like every soldier there had been roped into something they didn't understand. Near the back, Private Liam, a young recruit from Arizona with 5 brothers in the service, let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "No way," he whispered to himself. "That's her." Beside him, another cadet's eyes widened. They'd heard the name in briefings, swapped like ghost stories during night watches. Shield 19 wasn't just a soldier, she was a myth. A name tied to the worst deployment nightmares. A woman who went dark on comms for 5 days, only to re-emerge dragging a wounded squad mate through enemy fire. But that was a legend, an exaggeration. It couldn't be this woman, this bruised, silent figure standing before them with dust in her hair and blood crusted on her collar. Could it? Hartley stopped a few feet from Morgan, sizing him up like a storm slowly forming. "You don't need to understand what it means," he said. "But you'd better damn well remember it." Behind Emma, an older instructor rose to attention, not because protocol demanded it, but because something inside him said he should. For the first time since her arrival, a shift rippled through the formation, not just silence but recognition. "Ever heard of Operation Shield Edge?" Hartley's voice was calm, too calm, like the quiet before something breaks. Morgan didn't answer at first, trying to gauge if this was still about him. But the general wasn't looking for a debate. "No, sir," Morgan finally muttered. Hartley turned slightly, addressing not just Morgan but the entire field, now still as death. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. 4 years ago, a 7-person recon team was dropped behind the Lawn Divide. Remote, frozen, hostile. Their mission was to verify intel on a weapons facility we weren't supposed to know about. He paused, not for effect but because the words carried weight. What should have been 48 hours stretched into 8 days. A few recruits shifted uneasily. Ambushed on day 2. 2 dead instantly. 1 bled out before dawn. 1 vanished, never recovered. The wind stirred lightly but no one moved. That left 3. 1 with shrapnel so deep in his chest he could barely breathe. Another, their comms specialist, knocked out cold in the blast. He let the silence settle. The last, she took a bullet through the thigh. 2 fractured ribs, no painkillers, no evac. Just 12 miles of ice and shadow between her and any chance of survival. His gaze flicked to Emma. She hadn't moved, hadn't blinked. She carried the comms guy on her back, dragged the other on a makeshift sled rigged from broken straps and a snapped rifle barrel. No backup, no air support, just her will. The squad was silent, but Emma was elsewhere. Back there were no formations, no lines, no Morgan running his mouth, just blood in the snow, her breath growing shallower by the hour, and a faint voice behind her barely alive. If I pass out, don't stop. Keep going. She had, even when her vision blurred, even when she crawled the last 300 yards with him on her back because standing wasn't an option anymore. Now, under the Wyoming sun, Emma's hands were clenched so tight her nails bit into her palms. Not from anger but because even now, even here, the ghosts hadn't let go. Hartley's voice cut through her memory. You think she came back for glory? He asked the squad, his eyes scanning the formation. She came back because not everyone who walks out of fire leaves it behind. For the first time, even the boldest among them looked away. This wasn't just a war story, it was a warning and a wound that never fully healed. Even the loudest lowered their eyes, not out of fear or shame, but something rarer on a training field: respect. Emma Carter stood steady, hands behind her back, boots rooted. The sun climbed higher, catching the sweat on her neck. She hadn't spoken, but the silence had changed. It no longer isolated her, it elevated her. General Hartley exhaled slowly as if setting down something heavy. You think command sent her here? He scanned the formation again, cadets now standing taller, breathing slower. You think this was some reassignment, some favor, some sympathy transfer? He stepped forward, pausing before the unit. Sergeant Emma Carter could have walked away. She could have taken the discharge, the honors, the clean slate, and no one would have questioned it. A pause heavy with meaning. But she didn't. His voice sharpened, not louder, just firmer. She asked to come back. Several cadets shifted. Lucas, the youngest, blinked like he'd misheard. Not to sit at a desk or churn out reports or pose for recruitment posters, Hartley continued, his gaze settling on Emma. She asked for the toughest job we've got, field instructor for pre-deployment cadets. That's you. He didn't need to spell it out. Every soldier there now saw it. This wasn't some broken soldier clinging to service. This was a leader who chose to return to train the next wave, not with tales but with scars. Hartley's tone softened just slightly. She didn't come back because she had to. She came back because she knows what happens when training fails. No one spoke. No one needed to. Sometimes leadership isn't draped in medals or loud with fanfare. Sometimes it's a woman with bruised arms, a set jaw, and fire in her silence. In that moment, the squad didn't see her as the one sent here. They saw her for who she was, the one who chose this. The one who endured. The one you shut up and learned from. You've got one standing right in front of you, Hartley said, his words lingering. And you didn't even know it. When Private Morgan left the field, his head was down, his swagger gone, silence trailing him like a shadow. No one clapped. No one jeered. And that was louder than anything. That evening, the mess hall hummed with its usual rhythm. Trays clattering, forks scraping. But something had changed. The air was quieter. No one laughed too loud or filled the space with chatter. In the back corner, at a table for 6, Sergeant Emma Carter sat alone. Same posture, same silence, eating slowly, deliberately, like someone who didn't expect company and didn't seek it. Then one by one they came. No speeches, no fanfare, just soft footsteps, soft trays. A young recruit sat down first, then another, and then two more. None of them said a word. Not sorry, not we were wrong. They just sat, ate, and every few moments their eyes glanced her way. Not with pity, not with guilt, but with recognition. Because now they saw her. Not the bruises, not the silence, not the myth. But the woman who didn't break, even when she had every excuse to. The soldier who didn't brag about war stories, didn't demand salutes, didn't need praise. She earned it quietly, brutally, completely. A few seats down, one of the newer recruits leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. Why Shield 19? She didn't look up from her tray. Didn't change expression. Because I've buried 18 of my team, she said, her voice even. I'm number 19. The table went still. No second question, no follow-up, just that. And the silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was reverent. Because no one at that table would ever forget what those words meant. She wasn't there to impress anyone. She wasn't there for medals, promotions, or stories to tell around bonfires. She was there because that's what real leaders do. They come back even when it hurts. Even when they're broken. Even when the body wants to quit and the world says don't bother, they come back. So the next generation knows how to stand, knows what strength really looks like. Because true strength doesn't wear a spotlight. It doesn't yell over the crowd. It doesn't need your applause. It bleeds in silence. It trains without praise. And it stares down cowards until they remember what the word respect actually means. That night no one made a speech. No one told Emma, thank you. But they didn't have to. They showed up. They stayed. They listened, and for the first time since she'd returned to Fort Harper, she didn't eat alone.